Hi everyone, welcome to another episode with SWB Catering. Okay, I hope you guys have been enjoying the videos you've been seeing so far. Today I have a fun one. We are making my version of spinach lasagna. Woo! All right, real quick. The first thing we're going to do is we have our pot of boiling water here for our pasta. Have your oven set at 375 degrees. We have our ground meat. We're going to season it. I personally like to season my meat before I put it in the pan. Some people like to season their meat in the pan. I just feel like the flavors marinate a little better or blend better. I don't know, it's my prerogative. You do you. So, what seasoning are we using, right? Of course, I don't know if you guys saw this, but this is like a little portable food processor for like garlic, onions, little things. I have my garlic already in there and I started to mince it. I got this off Amazon. It's super cool. And it makes me laugh every time. It just makes it so tiny and so small and so compact, and you know, you just charge it and you're good to go, right? So we're gonna add a little bit of garlic. Why? For lasagna is my thing. I'm a pasta lover. So anything pasta, but lasagna, that's my thing. Okay, so we have a little bit of basil and oregano, right? We have to have some pickles, right? To give it a little, come on, you guys understand. Spice. We have to have our ippies, which should be something you guys have seen in our previous video, how to make ippies. I told you we put that on everything, except for something sweet, dessert. That would make no sense. That means my oven has reached its temperature. Why do we do our oven ahead of time? Preheat our oven so that when it's time, everything's ready to go. You put it in the oven, everything's cooking at a proper temperature because you do not want things cooking unevenly. So you always prepare that before, okay? Then we add the rest of my seasoning. Seasoning is really your preference of what you like. Like I said before, one thing I love about cooking, it's really up to you what your flavors are. Some people like low sodium stuff. Some people like high sodium stuff. Please don't do that. You shouldn't. People like to stick to salt and pepper. Some people like Goya, Sazon. I ain't gonna lie, I'm a little bit of both. Get it? I don't know if you got it, but it doesn't matter. Okay. And for my communities out there, sometimes I speak Haitian Creole. Some days, it all depends on what's happening. Today, I fais lasagna, okay? Nous avons viande nous là, nous mettons pickles, nous mettons épices, nous mettons season nous. Y'all understand? Okay. In my meat, this is just something I like to add. It just gives it a nice flavor. I like to add a little bit of mustard. I kind of marinate a lot of my meat like that. Saying the word meat just makes me giggle. It's a trend. Now we're gonna add a little bit of lemon. You could do lemon, lime, Haitian citron. For us, citron is lemon and lime. We just call citron. Okay? Now, I follow this Facebook group. I'm not gonna tell you what Facebook group that is because some of you may be on there and you're watching. But there was a debate on there about how do you marinate ground meat. And I know us Haitians, island folks, not just Haitians, Hispanics, whoever, us island folks, we like to make sure we properly season and marinate our meat. So the debate was, how do you cook your ground meat? And there was a lot of interesting stuff being posted, but the thing that caught my eye the most was the people who say they showed it, right? They boil water, they pour it over their ground meat to clean it. It's ground meat, guys. It's already minced and diced. We don't do that. The whole point of the acid is to help with that, right? At the end of the day, realistically, food gets cooked in the oven technically this is what I was taught in culinary school, right? Once you put it on fire, all the bacteria and anything it has is supposed to kill it. The reason why us island folks back in the days, we marinate, shode our meat and stuff like that is to preserve it. It also adds some flavor, and it also, you know, help kill extra bacteria. That's why a lot of us are able to, like, you know, thrive, because our food be sitting out. It should not be sitting out, but it be sitting out, and we're all out here kicking it. So for those of you who choose to shode your ground meat, at the end of the day, what's good for you is good for you, what's good for me is good for me. That's not good for me. Okay guys, so we put our seasoning in our meat. Our water is nice and hot. What we're gonna do now is, we're gonna add some salt to our water. You always add salt to pasta water. It's seasoned, I guess, the pasta. There's other reasons, but that's why we're gonna add it, right? We're gonna add our pasta, because you want that to be cooked and ready to go. You do one at a time. Ooh. Okay. I'm not making like a big pot, so we're not using the whole box, but sometimes if we're not sure, you throw in extra pieces, because if you have leftover ground meat and stuff, you just scrape that off with the pasta. I ain't gonna lie, I love to do that. Okay, then you stir to make sure it's immersed in the water. I like my pasta al dente. What does that mean? It means not too soft, not too soft, not too firm, like just right, because you're gonna bake it. You don't ever want, I have a thing with overcooked pasta. It drives me up the freaking wall. It starts to taste like mush. We're not making baby food here, guys, okay? So you're gonna set our timer for 10 minutes. Yes, mem, I use timer. I do. Okay, timer. Okay, I have my oven timer on. You could use your watch timer, your phone timer, whatever timer you wanna use, but I have my timer. When it bings, our pasta is good to go. So it's in there. Our meat, I have gloves on. We're gonna get in there to make sure we evenly distribute our flavors. I do not like how the meat gets under my nails, therefore that is why I have on gloves. But you wanna get in there, like, you know? Make sure we're mixing all of that. Like I said, a lot of people just do it in a pan. You're not gonna stick your hand in the pan, are you? We're not, okay. Now that our meat is nicely marinated, you could have done that the day before, and then you stick it in the fridge so that when you're ready to go, you're ready to go. Remember what I told you guys about mise en place. If I didn't say it before, mise en place is very important. The goal is to try to cook food in like under an hour to an hour, right? We're not trying to be here all day cooking a meal. When you come home from work, mes amis, ou besoin de dormir, ou pas souffrir manger. That's why we buy takeout so much, because it is too much. Therefore, measure everything out. Have it ready to go. Pop, 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 pop. Look, now we're about to cook meat. Yep, we're gonna try that again. Woo! We got fire. Okay, so we're gonna cook the meat in here. Gonna let the pan get a little hot. We're gonna go back to our pasta. Make sure you give that a stir, because we do not want it sticking to the bottom of the pan, right? Our pan should get hot pretty quick. Okay, so this is the easy part. We're gonna cook the meat. While the meat cooks, then we're gonna work on our cheese. And then after that, we're gonna have everything laid out, layered it up, stick it in the oven. Et puis, nous allons manger. We have food, we have a meal. I'm so excited because I really love lasagna. And I added my twist to it with the spinach. It's a little, like, if you want to incorporate vegetables for your kids and they're not into like eating vegetables type of thing, hide that in the lasagna, okay? They're gonna be mesmerized by the meat and the cheese for our non-vegan eaters out there. You hide that in the lasagna. I've added squash before, zucchini. Listen, you can't tell. All right, we put a nice amount of oil, olive oil, to the bottom of our pan. Now we're going to put in our meat. When you hear that, it means our pan is hot. Okay. Now we're going to turn the temperature down a bit. We don't want to burn our meat, but you know, we want it nicely cooked. What I love about ground meat, it cooks 1, 2, 3. Literally. My son loves to say that word. He's 6, guys. He's 6. But it literally cooks 1, 2, 3. That is why this is like a quick meal to make, right? So we're gonna give it a few minutes here, let it do its thing, right? And while that's happening, we're going to start our cheese. I love cheese. Cheese, cheese, cheese. Okay. One more time. Now is the fun part. What cheese we're using? I'm making lasagna as almost as regular as possible. So we're gonna stick to a little basic, right? We got ourselves some ricotta cheese. And then, I think that's a nice amount, right? We add the ricotta cheese. We're going to put in our mozzarella cheese. Oh, look at all that. Whew. You can really use almost whatever cheese you want, but mozzarella is just, I like mozzarella a little bit more and how it binds it. Why am I putting mozzarella cheese in my ricotta cheese? Because when I'm layering and stuff, the mozzarella keeps it together, right? So, right? Then we're gonna add some Parmesan cheese. Look at grated Parmesan cheese, okay? I add a nice distribution amount of cheese. A little more. Okay. Then we're gonna add, I'm adding 1 egg. I'm only making a small batch. What is the point of the egg? The egg kind of binds everything together. So 1 egg, okay? Mix that. Give that a second. Go back to our lasagna. Stir. Why are we stirring? To make sure it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan, okay? Then we go back to our meat. Multitask. Want to make sure it's cooked. We don't want it to burn. Okay, it's looking good. It's looking good. It's almost cooked, guys. Almost cooked. Like if you was eating a hamburger, like the Haitians say, well, it would be padded and stuff, but this is what they would consider the meat to be pretty much done. I want my meat cooked. I want it cooked, even though we're gonna cook it again in the oven. Okay. Now we added our mozzarella cheese, we added our Parmesan cheese, we added our ricotta cheese, we added our eggs. What is missing here? A little bit of some stuff, right? We're making spinach lasagna. So I add my spinach to my cheese, because that is where it's being incorporated. That's why I told you if you added vegetables to it, who's gonna know? They're not gonna know. They're not gonna know. I mean, you're gonna know because it's spinach, but you wouldn't be able to tell the other stuff, okay? If you wanted to add more spinach, you totally can. I ain't gonna lie, I'm gonna add more spinach. What the heck? We're gonna add all the spinach. I actually love spinach. All right, then I'm just gonna add, I'm not adding any salt seasoning. I'm just gonna add some basil, oregano, and a little bit of Cajun. The cheese has salt, the mozzarella has salt, the ricotta has salt, the Parmesan has salt. I think we're good with salt. The goal is to cook and not over season our food, right? So because we use salt and a lot of our products have seasoning and sodium in it, you try to get like low sodium spaghetti sauce or low sodium ketchup or different things to balance out that salt. All right. Guys, I'm also, if you ever see me using butter, it's always unsalted butter. You try to make rice, okay, so sidebar, right? I am also a program director for someplace, and I work with children, and we do culinary with the kids. So the kids made Rice Krispie treats. They use salted butter. The children were like, whoa, my Rice Krispie treat is salty. The mistake we made, we use salted butter. Had we used unsalted butter, it wouldn't have that issue. All right, So, look at our meat. It is cooked. What am I gonna do now? So I do not drain the liquid from my beef because guys, where do you think the flavor come from? Right? At the end of the day, if you could eat bacon grease and pork and all that stuff, why am I draining the juices from my meat, right? No, we keeping all of that flavor. So therefore, and it's not even that much of it. And then sometimes you want to add extra water. You wouldn't need to add extra water if you get rid of the liquid in your pot. So now we're going to add the fun stuff. What we didn't do yet is dice our onions. I love onions, so we're going to add some onions real quick. It doesn't need to be diced that pretty. We just need the flavor of the onion, right? Simone, attention avec doigt noué. This is speaking from experience. Children, be careful with your fingers. That's what that means. Timoun, attention avec doigt noué. Things you'll learn about Haitians, we go between Creole and English real quick. But I'm going to teach you some things, okay? So when you're hanging out with your friends, and they're going to be like, where you learned that? Girl, you need to go on SWB Catering YouTube page. You're going to learn some things, okay? We throw in our onion. Why am I throwing it in now? That is our 10-minute timer. What does that mean? Our pasta is cooked. All right, stir. What we're going to do now, we're going to drain it. So excuse me while I pour this water out. Okay, guys. So we drain our pasta. Why is it laying like that? I have a thing with my pasta curling up when I'm putting it in the pot or the pan, the baking pan. Therefore, I lay it out flat, so it's good to go. And it also will cool a little faster. My meat is cooking nicely. My onion is in there. Why did I add my onion now? Because I don't want my onion to really get that soggy or overcooked. Now, what am I adding? Right? You can still see the nice texture with the onion. I'm adding, you're going to notice this in a lot of the pastas I make because I just love tomatoes. This new fiery roasted diced tomatoes, Hunt, if you're watching. Okay, I'm joking. This new fiery roasted diced tomato, I just love it. It tastes really good. It has a nice kick to it because of the fiery roasted part. If you want to do this from scratch, totally be my guest. But when I'm coming home from work after 6 o'clock, listen, we're not doing things from scratch, okay? And then I want the extra clumpiness of the tomatoes in my lasagna. So what do? We throw that in the pan, okay? Make sure our heat is on, right? We mixing. Timoun, I say that all the time. Guys, children. Timoun means children, but when we say Timoun, it's like a joking matter. Like, guys, you should smell this. Oh, this smells good. Okay, next, we're gonna add our, you can use spaghetti sauce, tomato sauce, whatever brand. I love Prego. I also like Ragu, don't get me wrong, but it don't matter. At the end of the day, I think it's a person's preference, whatever. And I went with, if you see, lower sodium, okay? I add a nice amount because I want that nice sauciness. That's where, this is literally where most of your flavor for your lasagna is coming from. So you want that to be on point. And if you was making like spaghetti, you could have totally just used this for spaghetti sauce, big ziti. This right here, versatile for anything with pasta. You want to make rice. There you go. All right. Now, I'm also going to add a little bit of ketchup to balance out the acidity level because of the sugar and the ketchup. It helps out. You can use any kind of ketchup, but we're going to use this ketchup, okay? Look at that. I love ketchup. Don't mind me. And what does it look like? I'm going to stop. No, I'm not. I'm sure I keep you guys entertained. So, all right. It's the color for me, right? This looks so good. This looks so good. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna taste, right? To make sure all of our flavors are there, our seasoning's on point. It's the heat is at where I like it, because remember, I love my food very piqué. We didn't put this in our meal. I ain't gonna lie to you, okay? We could have put it in there. I didn't put it in there. It's not the end of the world because we use pickles, and this isn't pickles. So guys, you know, make it happen. This is a Scotch bonnet. It's very spicy. Haitians, island folks. I keep saying Haitians. A lot of us love it in our food because it gives it a nice flavor. You can cut into it. You get a little bit of heat, but not too much of the heat. But I didn't use it this time, which is fine because I had already put my pickles in my mixture. Okay, so now let's taste. Okay. You know it's good and you can't talk. The only thing I feel like it could use is a little bit more heat because I'm me. So I'm gonna add some cayenne pepper just because. I added a lot of cayenne pepper just because. Okay guys, our pasta is cooked, our meat is cooked, our cheese is mixed together. Guess what we're about to do now? We're about to pan it. Okay. All right, we turn off our fire. Here is our cheese mixture one more time with our spinach and everything in there. We're good to go. Okay guys, so we're gonna move some things aside so we can see what's happening. The first thing we're going to do, we're gonna add some meat to the bottom of our pan. Why? So that our pasta doesn't get stuck to the bottom of the pan, and so that every layer you taste, it's some meat, okay? But mostly so that our pasta doesn't get stuck to the bottom of our pan. It doesn't need to be a lot. You're trying to add the section that has more of the juice to it. You spread it out. We're not putting butter, we're not putting oil, we're not putting any of that. Okay guys, so we put our meat on the bottom of our pan. Now we're gonna do our lasagna. Now, here's the thing, right? I don't have OCD in real life, but when it comes to food, maybe a little. I like a little uniform. Now, because our pan is a smaller pan, we're gonna evenly cut this out so that it fits in the pan, right? So you're gonna do that to a few of your lasagna strips. It all depends on the size of pan that you're using. If you were using a longer pan, a bigger pan, then you probably wouldn't have to do that. But because this is a small one, so we're going to cut a few. And then we're going to, I'm not gonna cut everything because something tells me I might have cooked a little bit too much lasagna. But that's okay. Ooh, you know with your leftover lasagna, what you do, and if you have leftover this, if we have leftover, I'll show you. Okay, so now, take our lasagna, we layer it on top of the meat. Nice and pretty, right? You take the top layer right here because you want the whole part to be cut. I'm gonna do something, you might laugh at me. Why? Because I told you how I am. I'm gonna cut this a little smaller to make sure the whole part is covered. Okay. Now that we have our lasagna, we put in our cheese. This is normally what goes on the first layer, like the bottom part, right? So that when you put the cheese on top, it's the juice of the meat is just dripping. No comprend. You understand. You understand. If you don't understand, I need you to go figure it out. Okay, a nice portion. We don't want it to put too much all at once because you want to make sure that you can have enough room for your other layers, okay? You pat that down, you spread that. Oh, snap. Spread it out, right? If you feel like you need more, that's why I told you don't put too much because it's easy to add and to have to take away. That's with a lot of things, even with your seasoning. You don't go and put all your seasoning at once. Why? Because once it's overly salty or overly sweet or overly whatever, now you have to learn all these other methods and tricks to figure out, oh, how do I balance it? Ain't nobody got time for that. I don't know about you, but this girl right here, As much as I love to cook, there are days you just want to eat, right? You don't want to be sitting here waiting forever. Okay, so we have a nice portion. I wanted this a little bit more. It's evenly balanced. Okay, cool. Don't mind me. Okay. Now we're gonna put our next, so I didn't put no Parmesan cheese or anything on top of this. Why? Because we already have all of that in our mixture. Now it's time for the next layer. You see where your lasagna is already going? We're trying to follow that pattern because when you cut into it, we want it all to look the same. You see how it's still pretty straight? Yeah. Because when it curls up like that, it drives me insane. It really does. I don't know why, but it does. Because now you're trying to keep it straight so that it's a thing. Oh, so I'm overlaying, so I'm adding an extra mixed layer just because I want to make sure all of my lasagna is covered. It's okay if it's a layer a little bit much. It's no big deal, right? Then we're putting our layer on top. And then that little piece, you remember that little piece? Man, right there. Now, we're gonna add some meat. You give that a stir. By the way, the onions, so the onions are in there. You can't really see it. I wish you could. But the onions, so they're there. They're like almost translucent, but they still have a nice little crunch to it. It's not like, oh, I'm eating onion, but it's like, oh, I'm eating onion. You see how when you say things with your voice in different manners, ways, it just gives a different impact. That's only in English, because in Creole, it's just things that you say. Oh, apa manger zoyon. Oh, apa manger zoyon. Sounds the same way. We're eating onions. Okay. So we're gonna put a nice distribution of meat, right? My mom had this friend who used to make lasagna when I was younger. I ain't gonna lie, I always really did love her lasagna. But what I noticed about her lasagna is it was always the lasagna and the meat and the lasagna. There was never a cheese in sight. Now that you think about it to this day, it was just, see, the flavor is all in the meat. But real lasagna kind of has some type of cheese. Vegan or not, you're gonna use an alternative to your cheese. All right, so it's completely covered, right? You can't see a lasagna. You see all that nice tomato chunks? Okay, now we're gonna add our mozzarella cheese so that when you put your next layer of lasagna, it's gonna melt on the meat, it's gonna melt to the bottom of the lasagna, it's gonna stick together so when you cut, it doesn't fall apart, right? So, I just love cheese. When you go Olive Garden, like Olive Garden back then, when they come to the table and they say, you want cheese? And the guy's looking at you and you just like, and he'll stop. And I'm like, did you hear me say stop? Come on, come on. Cheese it up. You make sure all the corners have cheese. Why? Because you want to make sure all your edges, girls, you understand, stay down, girl. Okay, this is like a glue in a sense. I am making a mess, but who cares? Okay, right? Then we're going to take some Parmesan, just because I don't think there's such thing as having too much cheese. Now, what you guys do notice is I'm not using in my lasagna is sharp cheddar cheese. Why? I personally do not like sharp cheddar cheese in my lasagna. One, I tried it before. The oil that's in sharp cheddar cheese, when it melts with the lasagna, it ends up being way more oily and weird than it needs to be. That's a no for me. Gouda. What else? There's a whole bunch of other cheese, but oh, Gruyere cheese is really good. If you've never had Gruyere cheese, try it. Now we're putting our last layer of lasagna, right? To finish it off. We're gonna talk about this real quick. Okay. Realistically speaking, you could have actually just left it like that, but I actually wanted to have that nice last top layer because when you cut it. Okay, so here, you know, my measurement, we're gonna finish it off evenly, Remember I told you it was gonna have so much stuff left over? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we're done with the layer, right? What am I gonna do now? I am ending off my lasagna with meat and cheese, not just cheese. Why? It just looks so much better for me. I'm not knocking it, but, and then it keeps the top of the lasagna still nice and moist. For me, like I said, we all do what's good. And it doesn't even have to be a lot. You just want enough to like coat the top layer. Like it doesn't have to be all the meat. Look at that nice piece of tomato, right? We spread it out so that when you cook your lasagna, the juices, the sauce from the meat keeps the lasagna still nice and soft so that when you're taking it out the oven, it's not hard. But you didn't need to have to like fully cover it with meat, right? And it just looks so much prettier with the tomatoes that are on top. All right. And last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, cheese. We finish it off with some cheese. So it's all this beautiful cheese. If you're not into cheese, this is not the dish for you, okay? But if you are into cheese, let me tell you, your partner will thank me, or they'll thank you. It doesn't matter. They're gonna thank someone, but at the end of the day, please come back on my YouTube page and thank me. First of all, look at this. We're gonna put a little bit of foil on top so that it can cook nicely and evenly so that the top layer doesn't get too crispy or it doesn't take color before your lasagna is ready to go. Because of how high my lasagna is, I'm not squeezing the foil on the top. I just want it to cover it, but you don't want it stuck to it, if that makes sense. Okay? So your foil is on. Now we're gonna stick it in the oven. I will be back while it goes in the oven. Guys, so we put it in the oven, remember at 375 degrees, covered with the foil for 30 minutes. When it hits that 30-minute mark, you're gonna take the foil off. Then you're gonna leave it in there for like about 5 more minutes so it can get nice melted cheese on top. But remember what I told you before? If you have a whole bunch of leftovers and lasagna, you could do one or two things, right? Because what was life? You could just listen. Oh God. Okay. The other thing you could do, which I will definitely go in depth another time, take your lasagna, leftover, put that on there. Lasagna rolls. See? Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. A little bit more. You gotta get those hands dirty. That's what soap and water is for. We're cooking, right? And then you would put it in your pan. So depending on how much you have left, you fill it up. Then you would take the rest of your meat, pour it on top. When I'm telling you this is yummy, this is yummy. So I'm gonna put this together and then we're gonna stick it in the oven and then it is what it is. But let's see if our lasagna is almost ready. Our lasagna is out of the oven. It's, okay. So what are we gonna do now? The good part, okay? We're gonna cut it. We're gonna plate it. We're going to taste it. So I took it out the oven. I let it sit for a little bit so that, you know, it's not too hot. It's easier to plate for me. You could take it right away. Look, when I'm hungry, yo, the moment I open that oven, fire, flame and all, I'm ready to, ooh, hot. Okay, you guys understand. Now we're going to take it out. Remember I told you guys about the nice layering? Okay. Ooh. Ooh. Hey, baby. Where's that me? Bell bagay. Beautiful stuff, beautiful stuff. You could top that off with some microgreens or whatever. I'm just gonna throw it some parsley because for some reason we just like green on our plate, right? And then who has pasta with, you could drink whatever you want with your pasta. I'm gonna have some red wine with mine, okay? Why? Because it's been a long week. And my beautiful Pisces cup, because that is what I am. This is yummy. We need to taste this. We need to taste this. Oh, she was ready. Okay. You see all of this? The spinach, the meat. Oh my gosh. The tomato. Hold on. This is my meal, so it doesn't matter. Okay. Okay. Very human, okay? Wait. If this isn't how you eat in your house, then I don't know what's happening over there, okay? Yummy. Okay, guys. Take a sip of my wine. Sorry. Okay. So, remember we talk about presentation. It doesn't really matter what you're making. That's letting me know my oven is good to go. But plate it nicely. You could finish this off with some nice salad to give it a balanced meal, some bread, or you could just have this just like that. That is everything. I hope you guys enjoy the spinach lasagna meat that we made today. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel, like, comment, share. Tell your friends about it. Definitely let me know what you feel about this meal. How did you like it? What you didn't like? I'm up for whatever. I do read it. And thank you for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Oh, and if you haven't already, go follow me on Instagram, SWB Catering.